Eddie Chavez, Ruben Nava, and Jesse Romero. Jesus 911.
Jesus 911 on Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Good morning, everybody. My name's Ruben Nava. I am a one-man car today. My partner, Jesse Romero, is out doing some apostolic work. He's out spreading the gospel message, and I'm sure he's bringing peace and hope to many people out there who, in these trying times of ours, you know, we need that. We need that voice that that's going to be out there that's calming people and let them know to put their trust in Jesus. And so I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news. Seattle is the Seattle mayor is looking to dismantle the CHOP. Used to be called Chaz. Now they call it CHOP, the CHOP zone, after shootings, the mayor said. So let's get into this, man, because this is leading other cities to want to do what they did in Seattle. And we saw it last night in Washington, D.C. The federal police were out there in force as the people tried to topple the Andrew Jackson statue, the 7th president of the United States. And it was spared. It was saved. And you're going to see that they spent the whole night out there keeping these protesters back. And these aren't peaceful protesters. So don't get caught up in that word peaceful, because the majority of those people out there, they're anarchists, they're rioters, they want destruction, and we'll get into it. They don't want to stop there. Okay, so the president is going to issue an executive order to protect these monuments, and they're gonna hand down a lengthy, a prison sentence. The number I was hearing was like 10 years time. That would be awesome. There's just no room in our country for lawlessness, and so I just thought it was interesting that the Seattle mayor, boy, she's a work of art. Jenny Durkin, she's the one. She's the one, ladies and gentlemen, that said, when they said, well, how long are you going to let this go? When they took over this, 9 square blocks? I think it started off at 6. I think they got it up to about 8 or 9 blocks. How long are you going to let this go, Miss Mayor? Well, this just could be the summer of love. Do you remember that statement? Holy moly. What? The summer of love. She's, going back to, she's having you remember the verbiage in the 60s, when we had the summer of love in the 60s, where all those protests and all the hippies, especially up there in the Bay Area, California. So this weekend, Father's Day weekend, Seattle had a shooting, 1 dead and 2 injured inside the CHOP. And so it's called the Capitol Hill Organized Protest Zone, formerly known as Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. So they've changed it from Chaz to CHOP, and 2 injured and 1 killed. And so the mayor now says, we're going to return the police to this occupied protest zone. And she announced a plan to send police back into the CHOP and to reclaim the East Precinct. Remember, they gave up their 3rd precinct there. Holy smokes. Seattle will move to end the police-free zone known as the Capitol Hill Organized Protest, or CHOP, after 2 recent shootings, one of which was deadly. And if you saw the video of it, you saw the police were called in, and they couldn't even get in. They had people blocking their way and throwing things at them and harassing them, calling them names. And if you remember, this liberal mayor, took away the police's their ability to use less lethal weapons like tear gas and pepper spray. So they're basically going in the fight with one hand tied behind their back. So they had to, despite having a critically injured victim in there, they couldn't get to him, and they had to turn around, put their tail between their legs, and get out. That's revolting to me. That law enforcement agency the mayor is dictating every move they make and how they make it, and it's not going to end well, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going to end well. So they had to walk out. They had to get out, and then they have some inside the zone. They had some medical workers that took the victim to the hospital, and the other ones as well. But that one victim succumbed to their injuries, and so the mayor said that the violence was distracting from changes sought by thousands of peaceful protesters. There you go again, seeking to address racial iniquity and police brutality. The activists set up the CHOP in the Capitol Hill neighborhood about 2 weeks ago, barricading off the area after police ransacked the precinct building there. And the first thing they did was put up walls, right? And they had checkpoints, and people were checking IDs, checking who they were. People were coming in and out. So much for the, free immigration, no walls. Remember that? They're all about, President Trump, dismantle the wall, take down the wall, open borders. They have no open borders there. Isn't that hypocritical? So anyway, the city leaders have faced mounting criticism, as they should, including from the president, and he's been one of the biggest vocalists over this. And he says, if you don't take care of it, I will. And amid the reports of violence inside the area and how police can respond to such incidents, police have not been able to go inside the zone. So demonstrators inside CHOP have been mostly peaceful, this news article says, handing out free food and playing music, but a more dangerous atmosphere has become evident at night. Residents and business owners have voiced concerns over safety and access for emergency first responders. Like they say on the streets, the freaks come out at night, just like the cockroaches. Those people are out there. Their thug mentality, that mob mentality takes over, and knowing there's no police around. Well, because first of all, a lot of crime is diverted because the criminal mind is worried that a police car could come around the corner at any minute, any moment. Sometimes that's all that it takes to deter somebody from committing a crime. How do I know this? I was proactive out there on the streets in my career. Those of you who don't know me, retired LA County Sheriff from worked some of the meanest areas in the LA County. And sometimes that's all it takes is just the thought that a good guy is going to come around the corner and to stop the bad guys. So inside the CHOP, they've also got armed people in there, especially this guy who's this rapper named Raz Simone. He's like the leader of the group, and I have no idea how this guy gets away with carrying an AK-47. He's a convicted felon. It's like the laws don't matter. They want to enforce the laws when it's to their benefit. Oh, we got people that aren't wearing masks. They're going to church. We got to send the police in and stop them. We had a lady who was taking customers. She was she owned a salon, but she couldn't make ends meet, so she had customers coming to her house. Nope, can't do that. That's violating the 6-foot rule, the social distancing. Send the police in there like the Gestapo. I guarantee you, police don't want to do this job. Now they've made it mandatory to wear masks. I had a mask up in the gym yesterday. We used to have to wear it going in, going out, but now wearing it in, and it's communism, And there's been several sheriffs that said, "Hey, we're not going to enforce Governor Newsom's mask law, the mask rules," and I totally agree with that. All right, so going back to this, inside the CHOP, volunteer medics took the injured victims to the hospital rather than wait for police and fire departments who were preparing to respond before entering. And the mayor said, there should be no place in Seattle that the fire department and the Seattle Police Department can't go, Durkin said. The protesters have issued a list of demands, including calls for defund the police and for leaders to address other social justice causes. If I remember correctly, she put a stand down order to the police to stay out of the CHOP, stay out of it. Could you imagine if you had your police gear inside the precinct and you can't even get to your gear and your lockers in there? I'd be livid. I would be livid. So the president is frequently lashed out at Durkin and the Washington governor, Jay Inslee, both Democrats, by the way, over CHOP's existence, saying the zone is run by anarchists, and which it is. Andre Taylor, who founded the anti-police shooting organization Not This Time, said Monday he's told CHOP leaders the violence would prompt the city to take back control of the area. And he says, if I put myself in the mayor's position, I have to act when violence is around, he said. This is, like I said, this is not going to end well. You're going to hear my take on it, and I'm going to share some thoughts of a Seattle police officer who's up there, formerly of LAPD. So don't want to change that dial. Be right back.
This is Terry Barber. I want to thank you for supporting Virgin Most Powerful Radio. And here's an easy way to support us by going to smile.amazon.com and type in Catholic Resource Center or Virgin Most Powerful Radio. And when you log in your Amazon account and you purchase products, a portion of it will go right back in supporting Virgin Most Powerful Radio. And it doesn't cost you a dime. I want to thank you ahead of time, because that supports us year-round. May God bless you and your family.
How does the baby move in your tummy? How does the baby eat? Can the baby hear me? How did the baby get in there?
Wow, a pregnancy can sure generate a lot of questions. But what's important is that a baby is a baby, inside and out of the womb. Not just after birth, but 9 months before. At conception.
That's right. Every baby is a miracle. Hello, my name is Marianne Koharski. I'm the director of Pro-Life Across America. If you know someone who is pregnant or in need of alternatives or assistance or would like to support the work of Pro-Life Across America, please visit our website at prolifeacrossamerica.org, or better yet, simply dial pound 250 on your cell phone and say the keyword pro-life. Pro-Life Across America is non-political and totally educational.
A baby's heart is beating 18 days from conception.
Pro-life across America, the Billboard people.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Jesus 911, one-man car. I'm 10-8. I'm giving you some Catholic intel, some briefing, what's going on at a city near you, because this isn't going to stop. This is coming. It's making its rounds across the nation. So you Catholics have to be ready, be armed up, be churched up, be prepared. I should have started this whole show with a prayer. I'm going to do that now for all those people who are being oppressed with these anarchists, people that are being injured and their livelihood is being destroyed. Those business owners inside that zone, they can't get to their business. People who live in the neighborhood, it's a living hell for them. So I'm going to say the Our Father in Latin. You can join me. If you don't know it in Latin, say it in English. In nomine Patri, Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celi, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostro quotidianum de nobis hodie, et dimita nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. Nomine Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Talking about Seattle, talking about the zone, and the city council member who is responsible for that area. Her name is Kashama Sawant. She's a proclaimed socialist, very out in the open about it. And she posted this, and listen to this. If it doesn't get your goat, listen to this. If this killing turns out to be a right-wing attack, President Trump bears direct responsibility. Also responsible are the conservative and corporate media outlets, which have themselves whipped up right-wing hate by completely misrepresenting the nature of the peaceful protest occupation. Her office later clarified and retracted this and saying that she was getting her information from social media. This is her district, people. This is her district. She needs to get her act together. She needs to be the leader that they voted her in to be, or impeach her. The city council and the mayor, as I said earlier, took away from the officers the less lethal, not less lethal weapons, so they don't have to use their lethal weapons against these protesters who are causing harm to them. So this is what I'm saying. This is not going to end well, because what it reminds me of is if Waco, Texas. Do you remember that? Janet Reno, the attorney general, she had to get these, again, like they're anarchists, people that were, thought they didn't have to follow the law. And it was a compound in Waco. And the ATF went in there because had information there was tons of guns in there, and there was children that was in danger. And so they went in there, and I don't recall the amount of people that were killed, but there were people killed, including ATF agent. But I wanted to share with you what an former LAPD officer, he wrote. A friend of mine shared this with me. He's now a Seattle PD officer up there, and this was from a few nights ago, or maybe a week ago by now. This was the living hell was going on down there when they were starting to occupy that area. Listen to his heart. You could hear in his message here just how frustrated he is. This is one of the good guys, ladies and gentlemen. He says, "Hey guys, I have a little downtime here, so here's an update on things here. Absolute madness here. Can't even express it at all. Day 12 for us, and our mayor and chief abandoned a major precinct and gave it to the anarchists. Unthinkable. 9 blocks of our city under the complete control of these terrorists. No joke. This is unreal. No police, no fire department, no sanity allowed in. They have an armed force patrolling, manning checkpoints and stopping cars and citizens at gunpoint. They are creating a currency, an ID system, a supply system that includes food, water, ammo, and chemical weapons. They have access to the precinct and have made it their headquarters. Our leaders are completely silent, and the city council is completely complicit. Yes, they have been on the front lines with the anarchists, and yes, last night, one council member led about 200 into City Hall. The warlord in charge of the new Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, Chaz, that's the rapper I alluded to Raz Simone. He drives a Tesla and has been arrested for drugs, guns, pimping, and crimes against children, and is on federal child porn watch list. He carries an AK-47 and has already started abusing people inside. What the heck? Except he says something else. So this guy Simone is beating people with a stick, and he's protesting police brutality. Do you see something wrong with that? Where's the where's the outrage? You can't make this stuff up. He says, "We have been castrated. There's no recovering from this. We can't go near the zone and have been warned by our department to stay away." So much for the mayor saying, "Oh, there's no place the police and fire can't go." Are you kidding me? He says, "We are only working for each other now. We have been in battles where these psychopaths have hit us with rocks, cinder blocks, homemade napalm, and even IEDs. Multiple injuries. And then we gave up the precinct. Now the guns are out. The city can burn. I'm working on my exit plan now. The city and state hates us and gives us no support. In fact, the leaders are actively supporting this very real insurgency. Yet all you hear in the media is that they are merely peaceful protests. This is real," he says. "There is a part of our country that is no longer under our control. People need to know this. This is not about race. It's about control." He says, "Share this information." He goes, "But don't say my name." You see, people, that this is what happens when you let the people, they're ungodly society, ungodly. They've given up long ago on following the commandments of our Lord. It's just it's ludicrous to think. So we are, as Catholics and Christians, we're called to pray for those who persecute us, and that's the hardest thing to do. I know it is for me. I'm a sinful man. This past Saturday I spoke on virtue. I spoke on what's going on in the world, the Black Lives Matter. But I talked about virtue and how we need to recover it. Men, especially, you've got to recover it. Because this is not going to end well, and we have to pray and be willing to defend our faith, because there's other things that are going on that you need to hear, you need to know about. I'm going to go ahead and go to a Ben Shapiro. He's talking about how they're tearing down the country, and it's a short audio. Mr. Engineer, can you play that short clip of Ben Shapiro? He's talking about tearing down the country. Okay. Okay, well, Mr. Engineer, I don't know. You can hear me? Well, anyway, Ben Shapiro, he's talking about this this book, 1984. It's pretty. The irony there is it's so real. I remember reading that in high school. Some of you probably remember that 1984, and you should take a look at it again, and or just to hear what. Go to YouTube. You can hear what Ben Shapiro talks about this, and we'll see what it talks about. It's this idea that the left is trying to rewrite history. They're getting rid of our statues. They're rewriting the history books. They're doing things that are they want to just completely wipe it free. Why do they want to wipe it free? Because they want us to forget about it. They want to start at zero. They want to start where they can create the narrative. You know what I'm saying? So I'll just tell you a little bit about the book until we get that clip played. But it's a novel that was written in 1984, and it's a dystopian novel. Dystopian just means relating to or denoting an imagined state or society where there's great suffering or injustice. Does that sound like today? It's written by English novelist George Orwell, and it was published in June of 1949. 1984 centers on the consequences of government overreach, totalitarianism, mass surveillance, and repressive regimentation of all persons and behaviors within society. Does it sound like what we've been going through, what we've been seeing the president going through with the surveillance of his and of his team when he was going through trying to get elected, and the Russian hoax, the Russian investigation lasted 3 years. Repressive regimentation of all persons and behaviors. So more broadly examines the role of truth and facts within politics and their manipulation. The media, it's in bed with the liberal politicians. So they control the narrative. And so they form us in what we are to believe. And it's a mainstream media. I the only station that I can hear a different point of view is on Fox. And so many terms used in the novel have entered common usage, like Big Brother. You talk about Big Brother. That's where they want to, are looking out for us. The surveillance of us, Big Brother, like we talked on a previous show about Bill Gates and his vaccine that's going to be able to watch you and see where you go. And you see it already like in things like Alexa, where you're talking this happened to my sister, talking to her husband in the room about something they wanted to purchase. Next thing you know, they're getting advertisements on their phone and the emails or their computer about what they talked about. That's Big Brother. They're listening in. And then the another term you hear is doublethink. That's in the book, and it just means to know and not to know and not to know. To be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies. And that's what the left is doing. They know the truth, but they keep telling the lie over and over again, like the Nazis did, and eventually people start buying into that. You say it loud enough from the rooftops, people are gonna think this is the truth. And so double think is also to hold simultaneously two opinions, which canceled out knowing them to be contradictory and believing in both of them. Anyway, we'll be right back. Continue.
Hi, this is Jesse Romero from the Terry and Jesse Show, also from Jesus 911. Let's face it, we all need to use the internet, but we need screen accountability. Why? Pornography is a huge problem, especially on the internet. And every time we tap into the internet, we get bombarded with images and temptations that degrade our humanity. So we need Covenant Eyes to block these pornographic sites and advertisements from infiltrating our lives. Covenant Eyes helps us take custody of our eyes and custody of our intellect. So I recommend you go to covenanteyes.com and type in the promo code VMPR to support the network. Protect yourself and your family from the imminent threats on the internet. www.covenanteyes.com, code VMPR, live porn free. Thank you for listening to Virgin's Most Powerful Radio. Thank you. God bless you. Keep the faith.
Healthcare news today seems to be coming from everywhere and everyone. It's confusing at least and untrustworthy at the worst. Dr. Aceta is a faithful Catholic in the Kern County community. He is trustworthy, well-researched, and will only give expert opinion on matters in his own specialty. Catholic teaching at its entirety is of utmost importance to Dr. Aceta. Give Dr. Aceta a call for your obstetrics and gynecological needs at 661-695-6617.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Jesus 911, where iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. My name's Ruben Nava. I am a one-man car. My partner is out doing some apostolic work, and he will be back, I believe, Friday. So I'm talking about Ben Shapiro put out a talk on the book 1984 and how it's eerily similar to what we're seeing today. It's a fictional book written in 1949, but you'd think that he's writing it living today. So another term that came out of that book is the Orwellian. You know, Orwellian, it's from the name George Orwell, which, by the way, was not the author's real name. And Orwellian, it's widely used in modern political rhetoric, albeit often inappropriately. It's usually our enemies who are acting Orwellian, and it's a testament to Orwell's talents that everyone seems to think 1984 is about their political opponents. And so we're seeing that happening, bearing out in politics in this country. So the political left, sees plenty of Orwellian tendencies in the White House and the criminal justice system. And the political right bemoans the thought police on college campuses and social media companies turning users into unpersons. So that's another term. An unperson is someone who has been vaporized. Vaporization is when a person is secretly murdered and erased from society, the present, the universe, and the existence. And so we're seeing that the destruction of a rewriting of history and tearing down of statues. They want to just act as it never happened. We have to learn from our past. We're ashamed of some of the things we've done. Okay, but let's listen to this clip, Mr. Engineer. If you could put it on, what Ben Shapiro talks about on this book.
I'm sure that back in high school, somebody forced you to read 1984 by George Orwell. You may not remember it that well, but one of the key components of 1984 is this idea that the party, right? The entire book is about the Communist Party in Russia, but obviously it's disguised as sometime in the future in the West. In 1984, one of the key components of the party is the attempt to rewrite history and rewrite reality. It is a key component, right? All dissenting views must be quashed and history must be rewritten. There's a part where one character is explaining to another character exactly what the party does in order to rewrite reality in the minds of its constituents. And this character says, "Do you realize that the past, starting from yesterday, has it been actually abolished? If it survives anywhere, it's in a few solid objects with no words attached to them, like that lump of glass there. Already we know almost literally nothing about the revolution and the years before the revolution. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book has been rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street and building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And that process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. I know, of course, the past is falsified, but it would never be possible for me to prove it, even when I did the falsification myself. After the thing is done, no evidence ever remains. The only evidence is inside my own mind, and I don't know with any certainty that any other human being shares my memories." So in other words, the constant rewriting of history is necessary in order for perpetual revolution to continue. Because, of course, if people remember the past, if people remember that not all the principles being espoused by the party in 1984 are right, or are actually in concert with reality or history, then it presents a threat to the party. And so all of history must be wiped away. All of history must be rewritten. We have to relaunch at year zero. And we are seeing this from today's revolutionaries. And I am not exaggerating here. The goal of many people on what I called in my book, the disintegrationist left, the goal of many of those people is to destroy all icons of American history, to destroy American history itself. And this is why you see in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park the tearing down of a wide variety of statues, including statues of people who are deeply instrumental in ending slavery and fighting the anti-Reconstruction South. So Ulysses S. Grant, who is now being sort of in revisionist fashion thought of as a very, very good president, right? Originally, he was thought of as not a great president because of corruption and venality, supposedly during his administration. It turns out a lot of that history had been written by people who were sort of sympathetic to the South. Ulysses S. Grant is now seen as not only the general who smashed the Confederacy, but also the president who helped try to implement Reconstruction in a way that preserved the rights of Black Southerners. And the end of his presidency meant the end of Reconstruction efforts in America for 100 years. It was really a tragedy, the end of his presidency. The Reconstructionist Republicans, the radical Republicans, were basically ousted from power at about the same time as Ulysses S. Grant. Ulysses S. Grant is a great hero of American history. We're not talking here about taking down Robert E. Lee statues, right, which is controversial in and of itself. We're certainly not talking about taking down Nathan Bedford Forrest statues, right, the founder of the KKK. You're talking about taking down the statues of the guy who was the most instrumental general in destroying the slave-holding Confederacy. And the morons, I would say, maybe they're not morons because, again, they have an agenda. But I would say the moral fools on the radical left have decided that even statues of Ulysses S. Grant have to be taken down. According to The Hill, while Grant is widely celebrated as being one of the leading forces who helped the Union win the Civil War, bringing an end to slavery in the United States, some historians have pointed to his complicated relationship with slavery. Because, as we know, most people did not have a complicated relationship with slavery in 1859.
All right. So there you have it. Ben Shapiro, I'll repeat what he says on every record rewritten. The constant rewriting of history is necessary for the perpetual revolution to continue. And that's what we're seeing, this revolution. Well, that's why I keep saying that this election is going to be the most important election of our lifetime, because this is what we have to look forward to if the left gets into office. And they're coming for us Catholics too. Don't kid yourself. Don't think that you can continue in the way you're doing things. You're already seeing it. You're already. You go to mass. They're restricting you how many people can come. Some churches you gotta go online and get a ticket. What if you don't have access to a computer? What if you're not well off? Don't have a phone, a smartphone. Don't have access to a laptop or desktop. How are you going to get into that mass? And then we had a gentleman. I know he called in yesterday. I spoke to him Sunday at mass. Michael. I'm forgetting your last name, but I know you and your family were here at the chapel here on Sunday, and he told me a story that they weren't letting at the church near his home. They're not letting the children under 14 go to mass. Is this mic on? This is America, ladies and gentlemen, and we're being kept from our religious freedom, and it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. The bishops are complicit in this too. They're not opening their mouths up. So, in addition to the Ulysses S. Grant statue, they've taken down Junipero Serra, Saint Junipero Serra, who built the missions all along the California coast here, all the way up from San Diego, all the way up to, up north. I believe it was like 9. He was involved with 9 missions. And, the Native Americans were oppressed. That's what they're saying. They convinced these people to come into the church. Saint Junipero Serra loved the Indians. He loved the Native Americans. They fed them. They gave them the greatest gift that you can give them, salvation. They gave them baptism. And so they took them out of paganism and converted these families who were in the dark. These Franciscan missionaries were doing what Jesus called them to do, to go out and preach to all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And whose sins you forgive are forgiven, whose sins you retain are retained. They were out there doing the Lord's work. And then now to be castigated and made to feel as they were racist, that they were oppressors. And, this is what, he came from Spain. It was a dangerous trip back then to come out here and all the way from Mallorca, Spain, and now his statue over here in La Placita, I believe, was like Elvira Street, was torn down. San Francisco, it was torn down. I didn't hear the bishop saying anything. I'm at loss for words, or maybe I shouldn't be, because we're getting used to this from our leaders. But that's just uncalled for, and I'm gonna get into what else they want to do. But I just found it interesting that a professor from George Mason University, an African American, by the way, his name is Walter Williams. A couple of years ago, he wrote about this then, a couple of years ago, about the left is trying to rewrite American history and we must stop them. And, if I was just to say it, maybe not have as much weight. But when somebody who's a Black American professor who is saying this, you need to listen. And so he goes on to say that George Orwell said the most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history, as we just talked about with this Ben Shapiro audio. And in the former Soviet Union, Soviet Socialist republics, censorship, rewriting of history, and eliminating undesirable people become part of the Soviets' effort to ensure that the correct ideological and political spin was put on their history. So, what Our Lady said at Fatima, that Russia will be the cause of our errors, the form of all errors, and through communism, and we're seeing it. The left, the socialists, that's just another name for communism. That's what our leaders are all about. He goes on to say that, again, this was a couple years ago. Some of these statues are already taken down. His Confederate General Robert Lee monument, former Memphis Mayor A.C. Wharton wanted the statue of Confederate Lieutenant General Nathan Bedford gone as well as the graves of Forrest and his wife removed from the city park. The graves, they're gonna attack the graves. They're not just gonna let them rest in peace. Okay, in Richmond, Virginia, there have been calls for removal of monument of statues of Confederate President Jefferson Davis and Generals Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and J.E.B. Stuart. So my question, ladies and gentlemen, is when will it end? It's coming to a neighborhood near you. So we'll pick this up on the other side of the break. Okay, don't change that dial.
Help the Helpless, a Minnesota St. Paul nonprofit organization chaired by Father of Tear and volunteers, is humbly asking you for your kind support to help the poor and the handicapped children in India and Ecuador. Through financial support from the Help of the Helpless benefactors, the children are provided with clothing, food, education, shelter, and the teachings of the Catholic Church. The mission is to help children thrive and become self-sufficient young adults leading productive lives. We also provide aid to poor families in Ecuador with food baskets, medicines, medical assistance, and help with funeral needs for the deceased. The work in India is done by Father Antonio's organization, St. Mary's. In Ecuador, the work is being done by the Servant Sisters of the Home of Mother. You can call us at 877-762-8857. To learn more, please visit our website, www.helpthehelpless.org. God bless you.
Jesus said to the apostles in Luke chapter 10, "Whoever listens to you listens to me, and whoever rejects you rejects me." According to St. Boniface, in her voyage across the ocean of this world, the Church is like a great ship being pounded by the waves of life's different stresses. Our duty is not to abandon ship, but to keep her on course. May our Lord help us remain ever faithful to His Church, to aid and defend her.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show, and they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE, US 1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Jesus 911. That's what we sorely need right now. Jesus 911. That's why we named this show Jesus 911, because we're saying help. Lord, help us. We're calling on the 911 line. So it's a direct line to Jesus, and we don't have to go through a dispatcher. We go straight to Jesus, okay? So we're talking about the left trying to rewrite history. It's happening, ladies and gentlemen, and where is it going to end? It's not going to end well. And, if you like what you're hearing on Virtual Most Powerful Radio, hit the like button if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, or share it, like it, maybe hit the bell so that you can subscribe to it when they come on live. You'll get updates, and we also have we're also on Facebook. So I know some of you post these things on Facebook, and I appreciate that. We all appreciate that. Thank you. We got to get the word out. We got to be leaders, and this is a fallen world. So and our Catholics are low information Catholics for the most part. So you, our listeners, I know you are, I'm preaching to the choir, but you got to start with your families and all your circle of influence. Okay. And this professor that's writing this article, albeit he wrote it a couple years ago, but he's saying that they want to do away with all these Confederate statues, and I get it. I don't have a problem with those types of statues, but there's a process. You need to follow the rule of law. You've got to, if you're just going to take it down, maybe replace it with something else. Don't just destroy it, create vandalism, and break the law. That's what's happening out there. They're just ripping things down. And so this professor says that these history rewriters have enjoyed nearly total success in getting the Confederate flag removed from state capitol grounds and other public places. Slavery is an undeniable fact of our history. The costly war fought to end. It is also part of the nation's history. Neither will go away through cultural cleansing. And it reminds me, if you remember Clinton, former President Bill Clinton and Al Gore on their ticket, on their some banners I've seen where they were using the Confederate flag with Clinton, Gore. That was their mantra. And he's from Arkansas, so it was right in that area. And so, but nobody's trying to rewrite history and take him out, from the record books that he was president for 2 terms. Why not? When let's say Reggie Bush was found to have taken contributions while in college at USC, what did they do? They suspended the. And by the way, I'm not saying this as a UCLA alumni. I'm not just bagging on USC fans, but I'm just making my point is that they took away his Heisman Trophy, and they took away all the wins for the season for USC that year. Okay, and I mean, I just read that he's been ingratiated back into the UC. It's been 10 years, and now he's allowed back on campus. They're able to say his name, but the point is that the left doesn't. It's only convenient when it's maybe a conservative that's is posting some of these things, or it's unbelievable. So that removing statues of Confederates and renaming buildings are just a small part of the true agenda of America's leftists. This is what this black professor, is saying. Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. And there's a monument that bears his name, the Thomas Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C. George Washington also owned slaves, and there's a monument to him as well, the Washington Monument in Washington. Will the people who call for removal of statues in New Orleans and Richmond also call for the removal of the Washington, D.C. monuments honoring slaveholders Jefferson and Washington? That's a question. These leftists might demand that the name of my place of work, George Mason University, where this professor works, be changed, even though Mason was the author of the Virginia Declaration of Rights, which became a part of our Constitution's Bill of Rights. He owned slaves. Not too far from my university is James Madison University. Will its name be changed? Even though Madison is hailed as the father of the Constitution, he did own slaves. Rewriting American history is going to be challenging. Just imagine the task of purifying the nation's currency. Slave owner Washington's picture graces the $1 bill. Slave owner Jefferson's picture is on the $2 bill. Slave-owning Union General Ulysses S. Grant picture is on the $50 bill. Benjamin Franklin's picture is on the $100 bill. I know some of you haven't seen that, but just kidding. So, yeah, we don't see those too often in our everyday lives. But yeah, that's a C note. Ben Franklin's on there. The challenges of rewriting American history are endless, going beyond relatively trivial challenges such as finding new pictures for our currency. At least half of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were slave owners. Also consider that roughly half of the 55 delegates to the 1787 Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia were slave owners. Do those facts invalidate the U.S. Constitution? And would the history rewriters want us to convene a new convention to purge and purify our Constitution? The job of tyrants and busybodies is never done. When they accomplish one goal, they move their agenda to something else. And that's the whole point, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going to stop here, okay? If we Americans give them an inch, they'll take a yard. So I say don't give them an inch in the first place. I agree with this guy. The hate America types use every tool in their disposal to achieve their agenda of discrediting and demeaning our history. Our history of slavery is simply a convenient tool to further their cause. And you see them, you saw Rashida Tlaib, the congresswoman from Michigan, is calling for removal of the American flag in all the lower schools, the elementary schools, and I believe it's middle schools. He says because it offends people, because some people aren't Americans. Well, then go back home. This is our country. You couldn't ask another country. If you went to another country, you couldn't ask them to, and demand that they take their flag down. Come on. But now, if you're not incensed enough, I saved this for last on purpose because, we're gonna need to go to prayer after this. Black Lives Matter far left activist Sean King called Monday for the removal of statues, murals, stained glass windows that depict Jesus as a white European. Hello? Which claimed are a form of white supremacy. Yes, I think the statues of the white European they claim is Jesus should also come down. King, a former surrogate on Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign, wrote on Twitter. So that tells you right there he's a communist, a socialist. They are a form of white supremacy, always have been. This is an atheist speaking, Sean King. King's targeting of religious artwork comes as various activist groups have removed beyond tearing down Confederate statues and are now calling for the removal of their historical monuments. In the Bible, when the family of Jesus, he says, wanted to hide and blend in, guess where they went? He added, to Egypt. They didn't go to Denmark. Tear them down. King followed the post up with another saying that white Jesus is a lie and a tool of white supremacy created to help white people use Christianity as a tool of oppression. He added that white people would never have accepted a religion from a brown man. Wow. And Jesus was for all people. How do you know that Jesus' skin wasn't brown? If he's in the Middle East, he's out in Israel, it's hot out there. He's walking in the desert. He's got to have a nice brown tone to his skin. King then tweeted support from taking down all imagery, including murals and stained glass windows of the white Jesus and of his European mother and their white friends. It sounds like a racist to me. If a white person had said that And besides, when I looked at Sean King, I didn't know who he was. I looked at him. I said, "Is he even black?" He's very light skinned, so he's probably a mulatto. He's got half white, half black. But why can't people call them out? If they're making racist statements like this, we wouldn't be allowed to say that if it was the roles were reversed. Okay, so it's crazy what's going on in Washington. This is in Washington. The state mayor, going back to the original story, Mayor Cheryl Selby of Olympia refers to the protesters as domestic terrorism. She got her house vandalized. If you heard about that, she says it's domestic terrorism. She was like, why did they do this to me? The Black Lives Matter vandalized her house. She says, I supported them. How could they do this to me? She was all for letting them do what they were doing until it affected her. Hello, look at. Who does she think she is that she would be exempt from vandalism? Was it fair to let the 9 blocks of the city, including a police precinct, be overrun? What would the small business owners and people who have to live in that hellhole, what about them? Do they deserve to be vandalized? Do they deserve it? So why not you, Mrs. Mayor? And after all, you condoned it and you approved of it by having your police force stand down. Now, I got to end with this. I can't rejoice in someone else's misfortune. Okay, we're Catholic Christians. I can't rejoice in it. But if it had to happen to someone, better her than someone else. She's condoned it. She's allowed it to happen, and her poor constituents are, who knows? Maybe when they go to the ballot box, they'll have a different opinion of who to vote for, because it's happening all across the nation in all of these democratically run cities, ladies and gentlemen. So they're not going to stop with just the political figures, statues. You heard Sean King saying they're going to start toppling statues of our Lord and Our Lady, and more than likely destroying churches, feeling as though they're oppressors. So you got to be out there defending your churches. You got to be out there praying for these people who persecute us, and pray for their conversion. That's a lot. It's a tall task, but our God is a God with a big G, not a God with a little g. Okay, so He could change the hearts, right? And like you say, sometimes prayer doesn't change people. Prayer will change their hearts, and then they can go out there. They can change things themselves. Once they convert, they find it in their heart to follow the truth. And the truth is a person, Jesus Christ. So be churched up. Stay close to the sacraments as best you can, okay? Demand that you be allowed to receive communion on the tongue. And this is getting very, very bad. We know that in the end, we know who wins, okay? I've read the end of the book. And so have hope, my friends. Stay close to the rosary, and stay tuned for Hands-On Apologetics with Gary Mishuda. Thanks for listening. I'm out. 10-7.
Saint Faustina's Prayer for Priests. O my Jesus, I beg thee on behalf of the whole Church, grant it love and the light of thy Spirit, and give power to the words of priests, so that hardened hearts might be brought to repentance and return to thee, O Lord. Lord, give us holy priests. Thou thyself maintain them in holiness. O divine and great High Priest, may the power of thy mercy accompany them everywhere, and protect them from the devil's traps and snares, which are continually being set for the souls of priests. May the power of thy mercy, O Lord, shatter and bring to naught all that might tarnish the sanctity of priests. For thou canst do all things. Amen. Virgin most powerful, pray for us.